Pleasant good night or good morning or good afternoon wherever you are across this continent or this globe. I just want to sincerely greet you in the mighty name of Jesus, as I'm just here to speak on a topic concerning the workplace, that it may shed light to some persons, and that some persons may also learn something or be able to be more knowledgeable of certain things. The teachings might be a bit different based on where you are located across this world or this continent or the island. The teachings may be a bit different, as we know that the laws in one country may not be the same laws in another country. The rules or regulations that governs one country may not be the same as the other. So I'm just letting you know from the beginning that it can be a bit different. It can be a bit different, but you can also learn something from this teaching. So what I'm teaching about, I'm actually teaching about in the workplace. So I'll be bringing you different topics concerning in the workplaces. It could be in different fields of workplaces, but it is something that someone can find vital that they can learn from. Oftentimes, what I realize that many times, because persons may not have no understanding to something, they fall a default or become a victim or lose out or miss an opportunity that was given unto them. But if they had any idea or any knowledge of what to do, then it could have made them much better. So what you can do, you can go ahead, recommend someone to watch this video. You can share it with someone, and I trust and believe that someone will receive from it. So what I'm looking at here is staff versus contracted workers. As we all know that staff is more classified as permanent workers, and the contracted worker is more likely classified as temporal workers. Therefore, there are advantages and disadvantages to both parties. But I'm sharing with you a few advantages, and in the long run, I could come back, or I will be back to share concerning disadvantages. All right? That's what it is. Sometimes the errors come, just like when you're typing, the typo errors come. But let us just dive directly into it. So, as a staff or as a contracted worker, you have advantages that you probably don't know about. And as a contracted worker, you may think that, hey, I don't have no advantage. You can have advantages that you never discovered. And the truth being told is that in anything that we do, it is very important for us to get knowledge of something. For your experience might be different from my experience. There are many persons today, they had opportunities, and those opportunities they gave them up, or they were deprived of it because they didn't know what to do, or how to do, or when to do, to get out of the circumstance or the condition that they find themselves in. And you probably may be asking at this time, like, who is a staff and who is a contracted worker? So, like I said before, a staff can be classified as a permanent worker, and a contracted worker can be classified as a temporal worker. So, staffs are usually the persons that are more permanent with more benefits, and these comes from the organization or company that they are enrolled in. All right. And also, a staff is more likely to fill the capacity of job security. That means they play it safe. In other words, they are more secured in their job more than the contracted worker who is temporal. For the permanent staff at times is not easily be terminated from his or her own job. Not so easily. Depends on the nature of any breaches that they have made. In other words, are comparing to that, the contracted worker can be terminated at any given time without notice. And sometimes it is unfairness or certain issues that the contractor can be innocent, but because of the capacity that he holds in that organization, he can be terminated from his contract. So the contracted worker, in other words, simply don't really have a job security. So sometimes this causes them to be a bit worried or a bit concerned of where they are going with their lives and their future. In other words, sometimes you realize that the permanent staff, they probably go based on the distance of where they are living, and they can go and take a transportation or credit a transportation so they can journey to work. For they rely on their job security, to ensure that they know that they will be able to pay for that vehicle, or to pay for that house that they have took out or take out. They have ensured that their job security will allow them to pay the debts at all costs. For they are not in a place where they are considered to be worried, because they know that, hey, my job is sure. With the contracted worker at times can be in the mind frame of stagnation. Meaning, in other words, they can desire to make steps forward, but because of thinking about those little things, my contract is only for 3 months. My contract is only for 1 month. My contract is only for the next 5 months. And if I should go ahead and get myself a transportation, a vehicle, or if I should go ahead, get myself a house, or borrow some money from the bank, do I have enough time to pay the debts? And that is a concern. For they become worried because they are not sure at what moment or what time they can be terminated from their contract. So a staff also is typically someone hired by an organization under a formal contract. So a permanent staff at times sometimes depends on the country that you are living in. A person might enter into an organization, and in a short period of time they receive staff to become permanent staff. At times, they can enter as a contracted worker, where they are given a contract, and based upon their performance, you know that they will give them probably a threshold to say, all right, within 2 years' time, within 3 years' time, within 5, within 10, within 15. It depends on the rules or the regulation that they has instituted or has in place, that they will ensure that if your performance is up to date and there's continuous improvement in your performance, then they will allow you to receive complete membership to become a permanent staff. So you can start out as a contracted worker in whatsoever different sector of work field that you're in. You can start out as a contracted worker, but based on your performance, you can be promoted to a permanent staff as your performance pleases the company. For they will have a track record of your performance, and this track record is done by your evaluation. So this is the importance of your evaluation, to track your performance, to see how is your performance. Is it up to date? Do you maintain the standard? Do you have continuous improvements, etc., etc.? All right, so these are the little things that can help to bring you to the place of a permanent staff. So you can start out as a contracted worker, but your performance, it pushes you to become a permanent staff. As a permanent staff, you know that there are different benefits that you receive, different from the contracted worker, which is the temporal worker. And you know that when something is temporal, it can be removed at any given moment or time. So, in essence to that, a permanent staff has benefits, and sometimes these benefits are highly comprehensive, and sometimes these benefits are great, they are awesome. For example, the company that you are working for or the organization that you are working for as a permanent staff can supply you or give to you insurance. And that is a great thing, for you're considered to be protected on the job in case of any injuries. You are confident to know that, hey, I am protected. So if I have any injury on my job, then the company provides me with insurance to cover my costs or my illness, despite what the circumstance may be. Also, at times, they also provide you with health cards. And I think that is also a great deal for a permanent staff. So that is an advantage for a permanent staff, providing you with health cards so you receive health benefits, where at times depends on the rules and regulation that governs your organization. Sometimes it is the company that pays your insurance or pays your health card for you. Sometimes it may be the opposite. They may offer you the insurance, but you are the one that has to pay for the health card. So they provide the you with the health card, and probably they pay for your insurance. So it can be vice versa, but they gives you benefit. At times, the permanent staff, as an advantage, can also receive a better salary. They can at times receive a better salary than a contracted worker. Their entitlement may be greater than a contracted worker, and it all depends on the nature of that. In essence to that also, I can say that a contracted employee in the workplace can also have advantages, and diverse work experience is an advantage. And how is that an advantage, you may ask? And I may tell you, contracted employees have the opportunity to work with multiple companies across various industries. This exposure allows them to gain a broad range of experience and skills, enhancing their professional development. So, sometime you ever realize that we see persons going from company to company, and we be like, why does this person has a history or a track record of job insecurity? So they keep hopping from job to job. And at times we think, hey, this is something bad. But most times people think entering into different organizations rapidly is a bad thing. But it is not. In some cases, it is not. And I'm going to explain it. In other words, it's like when a person checks your resume or your CRV based on where you're at and see shortlisted years of employment within the different organizations. They believe it is something bad, but working in different types of field gives you more advantages because you are more likely to develop more experience, which can help you to be multifunctional in your workplace. So, in saying this, let me say this. Sometimes you going from department to department or from organization to organization. Persons may intend to say, hey, it's a bad thing. This person has a history of job insecurity. And the reality is that, for example, when a person go into different fields, they develop different types of experience. And those experience can give you an advantage to fulfill a capacity, to fulfill a capacity that needs to be filled, and you can be very effective in that capacity because you would had already developed the knowledge, the experience of different fields, and you use it, you combine it together to make you to be more effective. So it calls you in the work field to be multifunctional. So for example, you're operating as a front desk agent, a secretary, but you also have experience of, for example, let's say sales rep or accounting. And at times there are certain situations on the job that cause you to use this experience that you had gained already, and it makes you stand out, it makes you effective. So it calls you to be multifunctional. Anyone can call on you to do this and to do that because you would already develop that experience to go forward. My second example is, let's say, for example, in a country or in Jamaica. Let's use Jamaica for example. In Jamaica, let's say in the tourism sector, oftentimes you realize that, excuse me, oftentimes you realize that different countries is not only occupied by those of the given nationality. So not only those that are born in the country and are resident of a country at times do work in that country. Sometimes there are foreigners, persons from different states, different province, different nationalities, different nations who migrate into your country for better or migrate there for a better opportunity. So we realize, as I'm using Jamaica as an example, that in our country, we are not the only one that operate in the different business field. You can have a person that is from Mexico, Cuba, Dominica Republic, the Bahamas, person that speak different languages, Spanish, and the list goes on. But oftentimes, as we all know, that we have Jamaicans who migrate to go abroad to work. And we also have persons who migrate from abroad to come to Jamaica to be trained. We can see this probably in the hospitality service. Oftentimes, persons come from abroad in Jamaica to be trained, and it is to be trained to become better and to understand the operation more better. So, with this being said, in Jamaica, let's use the tourism sector as an example. Oftentimes, we realize that sometimes they hired on the job managers, etc., that are being trained and paid meanwhile they are on the job. So, we have on the job training, person that migrate who are being paid meanwhile they are learning on the job. These managers, etc., most of the times are often from other countries or nationality, like the Cubans, like I said before, the Mexicans, etc. But what you may not know is that they send them to train in various departments. And the reason for that is for them to become more effective. Example, they will train 1 week in the front desk department, 1 week in the guest relations department, 1 week in the maintenance department, 1 week in the housekeeping department, and 1 week in the operations department. I'm just using these as an example. This is because they will understand the operation of the organization more, because from the various departments they will understand the vital role that each department plays. So as a contracted worker, going from departments to department, you actually learn more, because you get to see the deepness of the operation from different angles. And it doesn't matter which field you work in. You don't have to be the tourism sector. It can be entrepreneurship. It can be as a lawyer, as a doctor, the different various fields. These are all vital, and it also shows us the advantages as a contracted worker. Which brings me to my third point. As a contracted worker, and I'm showing you as a contracted worker some of the benefits that you can receive and you may not know. As a contracted worker, you can be able, for example, again, I'm using the tourism sector. As a contracted worker, you can be able to cross train. And this means that you can be able to train into another department, and based up on your performance at the end of your training, when you complete your training, that manager of the department that you have trained in can decide if they want to take you into the department or allow you to come into their department by requesting a transfer from your previous department or your current department to go into the department that you desire. So we realize that sometimes persons, as a contracted worker, this is an advantage to you. You can be able to cross train. Permanent staffs at times, may not be able to get the opportunity as you may get, they can at times be able to train in another department. But sometimes that department refuse to take them because they are permanent staff. And sometimes as permanent staff, they consider as to say they don't want a department full of permanent staff. So persons can cross train as an contracted worker. We will realize that time after time you are likely to move over into that department by getting a transfer. Whereas a permanent staff are more likely to be remainable in the respective department because another department refused to take a permanent staff. Sometimes the reasons may be different. Probably someone don't want to take a permanent staff because their behavior might be not as what they are looking for, or because they are saying, hey, I have a job security. My job is secured, so I can behave any and anyhow, and you guys have to live with that. So sometimes person refuse from taking a permanent staff. So at times it can, in some ways, it can limit the career growth of a permanent staff, depending on the nature of ERR progress or desire that they seek to develop or to grow in. A permanent staff are more likely to be protected. This is an advantage also. Permanent staff are more likely to be protected and protected at times by, I'm not sure if in different countries there may be different names, unions. So they have persons who support them. So it's like they have joined an alliance, if that's even the correct word to use there. But at times they are supported by others, and those others are the persons that rep rep for them. So that being said, I'm just gonna wrap up right there, and I'm looking forward for another awesome time sharing some more vital knowledge concerning the workplace. And I'm looking forward for you to share with somebody. Invite someone to watch this video. You may never know. And looking forward also to speak on various different topics. We will also like to cover some point of views concerning the disadvantages with staff versus employees, or staff versus contracted workers. Have a wonderful night, or a wonderful morning, a wonderful afternoon, wherever you are, and may the peace of God be with you all. shallow.